A lot of memories down here, Cal. A lot of memories.
And lots of them I'm sure you would rather forget.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? If you didn't have that perspective, Stan, you wouldn't be who you are today.
Yeah, I was a vicious addict. Yeah, I mean, my mom was a very young mother, and there was not a lot of stability, but there was still substance use in the home, a lot of alcohol. I really had no positive direction, no male mentor in my life. I think I started drinking and probably had my first drink in elementary school, maybe junior high. And then that progressed. I was smoking marijuana. And yeah, my first time smoking crack cocaine was at 17 years old. You know, ultimately I ended up in prison when I was 19 years old. And I was doing a little bit of substances while I was in prison. And I think it progressed. Like when I got out of prison, I mean, I was in full addiction. I was not myself. I was robbing drug dealers. I was just doing things that, you know, would have ended up getting me killed. I woke up one morning, I looked at myself and I was like, I didn't like what I seen. I made a decision. I was like, okay, I need to get out of here. The pain, the mental, physical, emotional pain that you go through when you're going through withdrawal from opiates, from heroin, is probably one of the worst things that I've ever felt in my life. A lot of hurt, a lot of pain through this street. I stopped counting how many people I know that have passed away from, you know, the drug use down here.
The predatory drug dealers were taking advantage of the vulnerable drug addicts that were down there. And right in the smack dab epicenter middle of it all was Stanley Price. Stanley Price was running the Red Alert, which is one of the largest indigenous gangs in all of North America. And he was their leader.
I beat my addiction. I now seen it for something else. So now I was using it as a form of income. From there, I started doing bigger things and buying bigger amounts, and I created kind of like an empire, my own little empire down there.
And you'd see these kids overdosing and getting deeply entrenched into the gang life. And I said to Stan, I said, look, I know you have kids. God forbid your kids ever get hooked to the same crack that you're selling to these other kids, then you'll understand the pain of a parent.
My stepson ended up being fully addicted to opiates. I guess he was doing some pills, and it led to a full fentanyl addiction. And, you know, my stepson did end up passing away. Cal was right. He called it. I had started to see things for what they really were, and I seen how it was affecting my children. I wanted better. I wanted to change my way of living.
He was ready for that change. And so when he did call me and he said, hey, it's Stan Price, do you remember me? And I said, yeah, most definitely I do. And he goes, you know what, you were right. So I'm ready to change my life. That was the start of his journey.
There was a lot of people in the community that said, why is this cop working with this vicious animal? Like, everybody knew who I was. They knew my reputation. So there was a lot of people that did not believe it. But I stayed on the right track. But they say making a change in your life, you have to take a risk.
Stan has presented with me over 60, 70 times in high schools and different kinds of presentations to mentor and teach youth about staying out of the drug and gang lifestyle. It's one thing for a police officer to get up on a podium and talk to an entire assembly of kids, but it's another thing where you have somebody that's been a part of that lifestyle.
I honestly believe that The field of work that I'm in now is my true calling. It's what I was put here for. You know, I've made some really shitty choices in my life, but I've made some good choices in the last little while, and all those good choices have opened the doors. And when I started working at Phoenix, I was like, this is what I was meant to do. I can't see myself doing anything else.
If you ever saw him in the downtown east side, he was in his element of this extremely raging, violent gang that was constantly engaged in shootings and stabbings and drug debts and drug trafficking. And to see that man now become who he is today, you compare the two, it's hard to fathom that he could come this far.
I was not a nice person down there, and people feared me. And that's something I never want anybody to ever feel when they're around me ever again, ever. So going down there, I think it's a lot of mixed feelings. It's emotional for me because I know I could never go back there. I don't ever want to be that person again. And the person that I was when I was in the downtown east side, that's not who I am.